We offer you a welcome interjection. We're joined by Pujya Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Ji to bless this occasion. We also invite Dr. Nagendra Ji,
Swamiji,
Dr. Basava Reddy Ji, Swami Atmapriyanand Ji, and Shubodh Ji to join us on the dais. We will be exchanging 3 MOUs in the presence of Pujya Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Ji and all the Gurus assembled on the stage. We are pleased to announce a research MOU between Sri Sri Institute for Advanced Research, Art of Living Research Wing, and Institute of Salutogenesis and Complementary Medicine of Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth, deemed to be University, Puducherry. The MOU will explore research in yoga, meditation, music, and chanting as a therapy in clinical setting. Through this MOU, students can complete their project work at SSIAR while pursuing their MS and PhD through SBV. We request the VVM VP, SSIAR, and SBV teams to come on stage to exchange the MOU. We are pleased to announce another research MOU exchange between Sri Sri School of Yoga, which is known for its offering of yoga in its purity with technical skill and pragmatic scientific approach, Sri Sri Institute for Advanced Research, Art of Living Research Wing, and Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. The MOU will explore creating gold standards in yoga using digital technologies. IIT Madras is being represented by Dr. M. Manivannan. He is currently a professor of biomedical engineering at IIT Madras, established India's first touch lab at IITM in 2005, a distinction it still holds nationwide. Recently, he established Experiential Technology Innovation Center, the country's premier multidisciplinary hub for VR, AR, MR, and haptics, and India's first industrial consortium for XR, known as CAVE, which has more than 270 startups and industries. Prior to his tenure at IIT Madras, he served as a visiting scientist at esteemed institutions such as MIT, MGH of Harvard Medical School, and NIST, Maryland. Additionally, he held visiting faculty positions at CMC Vellore and IISc, Bangalore. We request the Sri Sri School of Yoga, VVM VP, and IIT Madras teams to come on stage to exchange the MOU. So it's already over. Okay. So we are pleased to announce an MOU between TCS and IYA. In the world of IT services, consulting, and business solutions, Tata Consultancy Services stands tall as India's largest organization with a workforce exceeding 6 lakh individuals from 153 nationalities. A pioneer in many respects, TCS holds the distinction of being the first corporate entity to become an associate center of IYA. It holds the unique distinction of establishing the world's inaugural Corporate Yoga Council. This council has spearheaded various yoga initiatives, enhancing the well-being and productivity of TCS employees while also addressing psychosomatic disorders. Notably, the inspiration behind this endeavor stems from the guidance of Gurudev. Today marks a significant milestone as TCS and IYA come together to formalize their collaboration through the exchange of an MOU. This agreement aims to strengthen cooperation in the realms of education, research, and holistic care. So I invite Fanidra Kumarji, Chairperson of Corporate Wing. So it's already done. Okay.
I heard you are all having a very enthralling session, and I would like you to continue your sessions. कभी कभी वाणी से बोलते हैं, कभी कभी मौन में बोलते हैं. आज तो हम मौन में ही बोलेंगे. तो आप सब अपना चालू रखिए. आप सबको बहुत बहुत आशीर्वाद, बहुत बहुत बधाई. ओम शांति.
Thank you very much. And that was a fantastic way to connect between the institutions with collaborations and taking these relationships forward. Can I request
I request the panelists to resume their positions on the dais to continue contributing to a meaningful dialogue. Please come on the dais.
request all the panelists to be back on the stage. We will continue with Dr. Sen Gupta, who was talking about importance of yoga research in the most important area, that is chronic kidney disease. Request the audience to cooperate a bit. Those who wish to move, probably you can move quickly, and others, be seated so that the session can continue. Can we request all of you to be seated?
It was really a surprise for me. So in midst of my talk, suddenly Guruji came, and obviously the important sessions happened of the move and all this stuff. So,
Just hold it, please.
ladies and gentlemen, we were in the need of discussing about how the yoga could help in the chronic disease. So, if you look at the epidemiology of diseases, over the last decade, the non-communicable disease has taken over, except this pandemic through which we all been through. But if you look at the history, earlier the infectious disease, those are the majority. Right now, the non-communicable disease like heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, and the consequences of those are the major challenge. And if you look at the chronic kidney disease, honestly speaking, we are living in a country where the total number of CKD patients surpass the population of Europe. It is so amazing because considering the definition of chronic kidney disease is such a deadly disease, but it is slow to progress. Henceforth, on time we cannot identify, and ultimately it leaves a major toll. And this is more than 2 million population worldwide is suffering, and Indian prevalence is 117 per million. This is a huge, huge number. So we need to be very careful about this serious data which I'm presenting here. This is WHO data regarding prevalence of the chronic kidney disease in the area. Now, I don't know, it is not working. Okay. So why this is such a sharp rise? The reason is very simple. We need to understand there is a huge growth of diabetes. There is a huge rise of the hypertension, stress-related disorders, and all ultimately culminating to metabolic disorders and leading to chronic kidney disease. Those who are yoga therapists here, I'm sure in your day-to-day practice, majority of the situation you handle, either you are dealing with diabetes, you are dealing with hypertension, you're dealing with something, insomnia, so there's all having important factors leading to this problem. So I don't know, it's not changing. Okay. Now, if you look at the journey of a patient, when he starts a chronic kidney disease, the disease starts with an asymptomatic stage. As because it does not show any symptoms, we are quite happy. But over a period of time, there might be minimal symptomatic sign in the laboratory test. And if you follow them up over a period of time, that leads to progressive CKD, and sometimes it leads to end-stage kidney disease. Now, when it becomes to end-stage kidney disease, people become helpless, they reach to the doctors, they need help for the dialysis, transplant, what else. But our job should be to retard this progression or to revert if the progression at all is possible. And here is the science, here is the role where the Joker works. So ladies and gentlemen, this is a common cartoon. I believe those who work in the chronic disease, they can understand. The majority of the chronic disease are because of the inflammation. So the major engine which ultimately drives all these complications, they are practically either derivant of inflammations or in a pro-inflammatory states. Now, when we look at the inflammation, when it happens, there are the 2 to 3 areas we need to understand. We are discussing about, since the morning, the lifestyle, foods, and all this stuff which ultimately change our trajectory of the disease. But there is a concept called the epigenetics, which we need to understand very clearly, which has a strong bearing on the outcome, even in the genetic situations. And when you look at it in a more scientific way, there are a macro environment, and on that, it is interacted by the social determinants of the health and cultural factors, lifestyle, obviously immune and autonomic neuroendocrine factors, microenvironment and the interstitial cell, and ultimately that culminates to the defective intracellular process which gives rise to the disease, which is perceivable to the physicians or the treating doctors. So there is a problem. Now question is, in this entire gamut, the most important role played by the neuroendocrine system. As a practitioners of the modern medicine, when we deal with the physiology, when we deal with the human biology, we understand we have to recognize the role of these things, which has been identified and understood by the ancient yogis thousands of years ago, not in the laboratory form, but the intuitive knowledge, they have understood this thing very nicely. And this is the way, if your autonomic nervous system remains in a healthy conditions, you can combat with the disease in a much better way. This is the forefront on which we designed a program called Murti. I'm coming to that in a certain way. So actually when we talk about stress, stress is the ultimate factor, stress is the ultimate lead for all the disease. But as a scientist, how the stress culminates to a neuroendocrine system, it works in the 3 parameters, either in the neuroplasticity or in the neuroendocrinologies, brain new circuit formation strategies, and also the neurology and inflammation. So these are the 4 areas which ultimately is the determinant of the stress, be it prenatals, be it in your childhood, be it in a work-related, life-related, whatever. But ultimately it is going to impact your nervous system. I know it's sometimes not changing. And same thing has been very, very nicely researched, so-called, in the standard research. I know Kidney International is one of the journals which is considered as the nature of the nephrology. And they have published how stress and the neuromodulation ultimately increases the chance of progression of the chronic kidney disease and the metabolic syndrome. Now, when on top of that we add the psychosocial factors, the depressions, the epitome of the disease increases more. So keeping those in mind, and the psychological depression could be multiple factors, cost, the economic conditions, hospitalizations, all this ultimately lead to the oxidative stress, and this ultimately leads to the progression of the chronic kidney disease. Now this all when got together, ultimately this leads to the allostatic load. There's a huge conversation going on the allostatic loads, and yoga to some extent helps in that. For the morning, we are listening that in the yogic science, there was a 5 sheets of labeling, that's Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no difference in the modern medicine also. If somebody says that the doctor don't understand this thing, possibly he has not a wise doctor. We also understand the psychological disturbance ultimately gives rise to functional disturbance, and functional disturbance ultimately give rise to the cellular and structural disease. Henceforth, message is same, language could be different. So we need to understand this very clearly, that there is no difference in the modern medicine and how the yogic understanding of the health and disease. On the contrary, yogic understanding is intuitive knowledge, which is much deeper, and modern medicine has limitations because it's a laboratory-based, logical knowledge. We have so many areas to explore, henceforth the need of science and need for research is much more. So exactly, there are a lot of mysticism in the yoga. So I give a simple example. The people who don't know electricity, even at a switch, when a button switch and the entire dark room become illuminated, it seems to be a mystic area. It seems to be a mystery. But it is not a mystery to you and me. Similarly, the purpose of a researcher is those unknown areas of yogic science, do you call it science or whatever, those urban areas of the knowledge which is not to the level of our perceptions, to make it simpler by some methodology so that our sense of perception can understand it clearly, it gets a clarity, and that is the purpose of research. Henceforth, I'm very happy that today this initiative in this move has been taken. So how this yoga helps? As a doctor, when I look at it, it has a physical activities and the behavioral change. It changes the quality of life, moods. It has a lot of impact on the body weight, blood pressures, the heart parameters which the doctors monitors. It does immunomodulations and ultimately the metabolic syndrome get improved. So there is no doubt about it works. Now we need to figure it out the pathways, how this works. For example, when I prescribe SGLT2 inhibitor, I know this drug works in this pathway. Why? Because the researchers over a decade had worked, identified the molecule, identified the chemical response, and they identified the measurable outcome. So the researchers, as a researcher, when we combat with the yogic scientist, we need to figure it out this pathway in a clarity which is reproducible, which is understandable, and so that it can be published in a nice way. If we look at the asanas, what asana does exactly? The asana is a main work in the baroreceptors. Ladies and gentlemen, I am standing right now, my pressure is not falling. Why? The reason because we have a lot of baroreceptors in the carotid sinus, in the peripheral muscles. They are ultimately holding the contractility and tonicity of the vessels. Over a period of time, they get lax, they get defective, and this ultimately leads to a lot of problem. Endothelial function, a lot of research has been going on. The diabetes is ultimately endothelial disease. And obviously the insulin resistance, whatever we think about the metabolic syndrome, the asana has a tremendous impact in all these areas, and there are huge bout of papers which are focusing to identify this thing. It is true that there are limited number of papers, as Dr. Manjunath was telling, that 8,000 yogic research publications. Honestly speaking, maybe those millions of scientific publications, if we look at the yogic angles, we can collaborate with that, and this 8,000 will remain to be 80,000 very soon. And in my understanding, those who are yoga practitioners, for them, this is one simple message. If you can control over the vagus nerve, the longest parasympathetic nerve in your body, possibly you will get a holistic health. This is the nerve which ultimately generates from the fourth ventricle leading to our respiratory centers, cardiac centers, GI, kidney, and every autonomic controls. And whatever practices we do, they have some connotations or improving the function of the vagus system, and thereby it improves our functionality. Let us come to a program called Mukti. The Mukti has been designed by me and some of my teachers, yogic teachers who are from Kaivalya Dham and also from Bihar School of Yoga. We addressed the asanas, pranayamas, and also the lifestyle practices addressing the sympathetic tone, oxidative stress, chronic inflammations, psychological stress, and the baroreceptors modulation training. These were the basic fundamental thought, scientific understanding behind the designing the program. And what we did, we are equipped with a lot of laboratory facilities where we can monitor the autonomic nervous system function by the pseudoscan. Obviously, we have a very state-of-the-art biological labs. We have fibroscan to understand the liver inflammation, what's going on, and we have BCM, that is body composition analysis. The data which just came out in these studies, obviously, again I'm telling you, this is a logical dimension of interpreting yogic interventions, where we looked at the basic clinical parameters along with the high-sensitive C-reactive protein, IL-6, albumin-creatinine ratio, pseudo and fibroscan, and also some basic score by which we can define the wellness of the patients. And there are amazing, amazing outcomes in these studies. Some are clinically relevant, some are not clinically relevant, statistically relevant, not statistically relevant. But if you look at in an overall perspective, this is not lesser equivalent than the pharmaceutical intervention. That I must strongly add on. So blood pressure controls, fat mass index, muscle mass index, These are the some areas which a lot of CKD patients suffer, and there's a huge changes in these areas. And if you look at the wellness score, this is diastolic blood pressures and the systolic blood pressure change, and also some of the changes in the wellness, that means WHO wellness score, which was a very important parameters which have seen dramatic change in the patient who are practitioners of the Mukti. Ladies and gentlemen, the statistics can go on. There are so many data, so many compilations, so many publications we are looking for, but the message is very simple. As a doctor of the modern medicine, practicing nephrology, one of the hardest and critical discipline, where survival is not possible in end-stage kidney disease without artificial support, be it dialysis or transplant, we have found and we have figured out some tools through which we can change the trajectory of the disease, trajectory of the well-being, and some of the complication by the yogic interventions. I'm ready to explore this area much more because there are so many things as unknown, so many things as a researcher I don't know, so many things which we don't have the adequate facility to ultimately explore about. As Dr. Manjunath told that they have a very beautiful lab. I love to visit your lab, sir, one day, because we also have a lab. We have a huge number of patient base. And these can be collaborative and can give out a very positive impact. Whatever we do, ultimately, it has to be some meaning for the society. That has to be some meaning for somebody who is suffering from any chronic disease. So, irrespective of whether you publish or don't publish, your impact must benefit somebody. That is the message. That is the thing we have been learned from my childhood. And as a doctor, I'm practicing that thing. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity here.
Thank you, Dr. Sengupta. So there were two messages. One is, certainly, it's important to explore the science behind pathogenesis, but at the same time, we had an MOU signing with the institution of cellulogenesis. So yoga takes us towards cellulogenesis and reversal of pathogenesis, and probably bringing in excellent rehabilitation. In chronic condition like this, rehabilitation happens automatically whether you want it or not. That's the beauty of yoga. And the Mukti program, very nicely coined, beautiful. Big round of applause to Dr. Sengupta, because unfortunately in chronic kidney disease, in a different way, the word Mukti is used when you get rid of this body, because the suffering is so much that you feel that I don't want to be continuing anymore with this. But here, the same terminology has been used to reverse and bring them back to their life as far as possible, to improve their quality of life and reverse pathogenesis. Then probably yoga has a big message to give. Keeping the time in mind, Dr. Apar Savoji is here, who has done his bachelor's in naturopathy and yogic sciences, then doctorate in yoga, and his specialty is into pranayama. We know in yoga we use multiple dimensions, then we bring an integrated approach. You use an Shitilikarana Vyayama to asana, pranayama, relaxation techniques, then meditation, then advanced yoga techniques. But when you pick any one of those individual techniques, it has so much to offer. And that exploration was done by Dr. Apar Savoji. Dr. Apar heads the School of Yoga and Naturopathic Medicine at S. Vyasa University. He had a basic question in mind that in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, the pranayama is defined as kumbhaka. Ashta kumbhakas we say. But how many of us use kumbhaka as means of breath holding in any of our actual practice? So what is that secret behind kumbhaka, breath holding, internal or external? Are there any adverse effects associated with kumbhaka? Because we all shy away and we have that worry that kumbhaka can be disastrous at times when it is not done properly. So a lot of research work and publications are to his credit, Dr. Apar Savoji, and he will be giving an overview of how to integrate research into yoga practice. Dr. Apar Savoji.
Pranams to all gurus. I am blessed. I am nervous. This is the first time that my mentor has introduced me on a public forum. Dr. Manjunath is my really blessed to share a stage with him. It happens a lot of times at SVYA. However, to be in this forum where we are united with yoga, to be addressed by Sir, talking about what work we could do under his guidance is something that is amazing. Today, I will be talking about what as individual, either practitioners or small to medium-sized yoga centers, what kind of things can we do in our own levels to bring in that component of research, what kind of tools and techniques are available, and very importantly, where do we get money for it? So yoga research, Guruji was here, Dr. Nagendra, and the whole institution of SVYA is based on bringing best of the East with best of the West, which is what Swami Vivekananda has told us, and yoga research is essentially that. The consciousness-based approach of yoga, understanding, exploring yourself, and the best of the West, looking at the technology to science, is what we are bringing together when we are talking of yoga research. And therefore, there is always this yujjate that is brought together with yoga research as well. So why do we need yoga research? I don't have to talk about it, but establishing evidence-based practice, we have a lot of practices which are probably evolved from the tradition of yoga. Many of us have created, modified those techniques to our own benefits, our own requirements. And today, we don't really know if those techniques are really helpful. They may be helpful in my practice. I see them beneficial. But how do I make the world believe that they actually work? So creating evidence is one thing that we will have to do. Second, the credibility and acceptance of yoga. We have a nephrologist talking about how yoga can be beneficial. But if we want a larger population of medical practitioners recommending yoga, we will have to talk in their language. I come from Maharashtra. I can speak maybe 4 languages. But if I start talking in Marathi here, probably half of you will not understand what I'm talking. So if I have to, the unfortunate thing today is the modern medicine has become the traditional medicine and conventional medicine. But if we want to approach health seekers, we have to go through those modern medical practitioners today, and they understand the language of science, and we will have to speak that language, although yoga doesn't require that validation. It is always proven. We also require refinement and customization. We have been talking of standardization versus individualization in this session, so I will not go in details of that. So we have a lot of requirement for conducting yoga research. How, as individuals, we can contribute to yoga research? Yoga, not just in India, but across the world, is an unorganized sector. Thanks to IYA, thanks to Honorable Prime Minister, Ministry of Ayush, that we are bringing people together. Otherwise, we are all in our own islands. And therefore, to organize us, there has to be a common thread, and that essentially is yoga. But if we start talking language of, science of yoga, that will bring us together further. Many small and medium yoga training therapy centers are there. Huge participation of public is there in yoga studies. One of the studies that was done by SVYA, the Niyantrit Madhumeha Bharat, which was in association with Ministry of Ayush, Ministry of Health, and IYA, one survey that we conducted on 1.5 lakh people demonstrated that around 12% people practice yoga, but we are talking of a very small sample. And therefore, the number of people who are practicing yoga is huge. And imagine that amount of data coming in to yoga research, we will be able to speak science of yoga very, very easily. It's not very difficult. And therefore, there is tremendous opportunity to yoga research. But what do we require for doing yoga research? I would say 3 entities that are required. The tools and techniques, probably people who are doing science already can help you with that. But more importantly, coming together, the collaboration. We have been talking about this today while Manjunath sir was talking, madam was talking, that collaboration is the key. A lot of times we say that SVYASA has contributed by X number of papers, but they are not only SVYASA's papers. They are all our collaborators who are helping us to work together. And therefore, collaboration is going to be very important. And third thing definitely is going to be money. So I will be covering 2 parts of it. Collaboration, IYA is doing it for us. So what are the tools and techniques that I can use at my own center? Very simple assessment tools. I think all of us have been working with numerous number of people, influencing their lives through our own yoga practice. What we lack is documentation, and again that was highlighted by one of the speakers earlier. Can we collect systematically the data of all these people, let alone, the age and gender of the people? Do we know how many people at what age are practicing yoga? Do we know what is the gender proportion and their preference to yoga? Unfortunately, we do not have that numbers as of today. And therefore, even collecting those small little details are going to be very important. What health conditions do people seek yoga for? I think collecting these very simple information is going to be very, very important. Of course, you don't really require too much of, complicated laboratories or equipments. Simple paper pencil questionnaires can be very useful, looking at things like stress, anxiety, depression, mood, well-being, quality of life, and whatnot. A lot of things, there are scientifically validated, very well accepted, established tools available. And we talk about yoga helping in all these domains. It is just documenting that is required. Well, is it only the psychological aspects? No, we can look at, mindfulness, which is the awareness. I'm not talking of mindfulness as the technique, but as an aspect of psychology where we are aware of what we are doing, and essentially that is what yoga is all about. And also cognition. We always talk about how yoga has helped in memory, concentration, attention, and all of that. There are very simple paper pencil tasks that you can do. Initial yoga research at SVYASA, if you're looking at, a lot of studies are done with 6-letter cancellation test, which is just a piece of paper and a pen that is used. So very simple tools are available, which are accepted by the scientific community for publication and making it science. Now you want to go from basic to advanced. Yes, there are a lot of tools today which are available. I would recommend all of you to please look at this website called millisecond.com. There are around 1,000 plus psychometric tests, from healthy to cognition to any psychological illnesses. Disease-specific psychological tests are all available, and you get the results ready-made. So it's very simply available, and we have people from TCS here who can probably help us build these things for the yoga community, customize it for the yoga community as well. Then there is also a lot of chance of collecting qualitative data. What we essentially do a lot of times is, a participant comes to your yoga school, you teach a yoga session and you ask, how are you? But you do not document it. Even that documentation about what people are feeling when they do yoga is accepted as a research form. And we can get a lot of perspectives on yoga practice. How is it impacting their daily lives and all of that? How is it benefiting them spiritually? Because spirituality, I think Hemant Bhaiya was talking about, where the science is stopping. We do not really have tools to understand dimensions of consciousness. So can we even, write down the feelings of an individual, then what they're feeling when they practice yoga is going to be very important. Well, very simple physiological assessment tools which will give you quantitative data like blood pressure, heart rate or pulse rate, and you don't really have to learn it. Today you have pulse oximeter, which was very famous during COVID. So we all have learned how to use it. You know, the digital BP apparatuses, they are very easily accessible to all of us, and that will also help you to demonstrate to your own participants that yoga is helping them. So it is not for, developing yoga that you have to do it for your own yoga school. This can be very, very useful. You want to go complicated, then there can be ECG, looking at heart rate variability, and then, looking at fMRI or, EEG, for which probably you may not have facility, but we were talking of collaborations. I'm very sure there are large hospitals, large universities, large, centers which are interested in yoga, and you can always collaborate. Take your patients there, take your participants there and test them, and you can use that data as well. You can use new technology. Today, wearables is something that most of the people are using, and it gives you fantastic data. I'm sure you have read some news articles where you have read about how wearing an Apple Watch saved somebody's life, because you are able to get that precise data from the sensors that are there in the wearables. What more, we have today smart yoga mats, which will give you the data, real-time data when you're practicing yoga itself, okay? So you can utilize all these available tools to collect the information. Now the problem here is money. I want to buy a smart yoga mat which is 15,000 rupees, not everybody's cup of tea. And when I was doing my PhD, one of my mentors, not Manjunath sir, told that, Lakshmi and Saraswati do not walk together. So you are a yoga researcher, you need to be poor. No, that's not true. There is a lot of money available to do research. It is only that we are not tapping those opportunities, okay? So where can we get those funds from? Individuals. Say a participant who has got wonderful benefit, and you approach that participant and say that, I want to conduct a study and I require some amount of money for that. Don't you think that participant will help you? They do, right? It can be, yoga institutions, private companies. TCS is very much here, sorry, using too much, but they have a lot of CSR fund, and Government of India allows you to spend CSR money for yoga. So, I'm giving you hints of where you can approach. A lot of NGOs, hospitals, universities, government has a lot of grants available, and I'll just talk about a few of them. There are a lot of foreign grants also available. So if you're looking at government funds in yoga research that is available already, we have the Central Council for Research in Yoga and Naturopathy, which is essentially funding yoga research. The Ministry of Ayush themselves fund a lot of projects. The Department of Science and Technology has a specific scheme called Satyam, the science and technology in yoga and meditation. Again, a lot of funds are available. You have the Scientific and Engineering Research Board, DIPAS, DRDO, UGC. A lot of government agencies are able to fund the projects, but you need to approach in the right way. They are going to look at, are you capable of handling the money that is given, for which publications are going to be very, very important. Collaborations are going to be very important. And therefore, again, coming together and starting small, Hemant Bhaiya was mentioning about, publishing very small research studies that you have done is also extremely, extremely important. So there are a lot of foreign grants available, Wellcome Trust, Melinda Gates Foundation, the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, which is the National Institute of Health's body. So all of them do have funds for yoga. And whatever I have put here have already funded yoga research. I am not putting something just out of context. So it is just that we have to speak in that language so that they understand what you really want to do, and they would be very happy to help you to help yourself. I think with that, I will just stop with this last slide. If you are writing a grant proposal for yoga research, keep looking for opportunities. A lot of new opportunities keep coming. Apply early, because it's not only you who will apply. Funnily, the yoga research funds with the Government of India are not hardly taken by any yoga research institution. They are taken mainly by medical institutions, right from All India Institute to NIMHANS to everybody. So that is one thing. Do not get disheartened by rejections. Update, revise, and then resubmit. Add collaborators. And more importantly, have smart projects. They should be specific. They should be measurable, attainable, time-bound. There has to be a good budget presented and collaborations once again. So the crux of what I spoke was collaboration is the key. And I think IYA has created that fantastic platform for all of us to come together. Let us work together and make yoga a socially relevant science. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you.
Finally, we understood one thing. Lakshmi and Saraswati, both of them are needed to do anything. So, particularly yoga research, Lakshmi is needed when you really want to do something of that level or wherever there is an expenditure involved. Otherwise, as we always said, small little projects, humble beginning can always be made in such simple way, and you can put it together and to make it as big as possible. So we had a fantastic session. We had people from various fields coming together and talking about yoga research, need for yoga research, processes involved in yoga research, methodologies, funding, ethics, and also some examples of yoga research, including oncology to nephrology. I'm sure it might have ignited lots of thoughts in you. Many of you are doing research in some form, but if you really want to get into clinical research on one side, you want to do basic research, or you want to do applied research. In all three areas, the scope is too big, and you can make your own positioning or name in any of the areas of your choice. We have to thank IYA for giving this opportunity to share some decent amount of information about yoga research with all of you. And at any time, we always end by saying that this is for networking, this is for collaborations. So take it actively, take it forward, and collaborate with as many institutions as possible, because I do have another request here from Dr. S.D. Pathak, that there are 3 projects to be proposed in collaboration with Kaivalya Dham. That's the kind of spirit what we want. This is the spontaneous collaborative requests which are coming up thanks to Dr. Pathak and Kaivalya Dham team here. So it's not limited to any one of these studies and projects. You can meet all the institutional heads who are present here. You can discuss with them which way you want to collaborate. If you are not too clear about it, there is one source, Subodhji sitting here as the person holding the torch of IYA. So you can approach Subodhji, who will direct you which institution can help you to do what. So there is one mother organization now for all yoga institutions and for all yoga practitioners, which is IYA, and I congratulate each one of you for being part of this journey of IYA and to take this forward.